continue on talking about what we've been talking about, and that's passive transport. We just got done with osmosis. Again, the class will going to revisit osmosis when we actually talk a little bit about filtration. What's filtration now? Filtration is the movement of fluid. Now, fluid and water are different. Water is water, H2O. Fluid is water plus small solutes, all right, or solutes. It could be medium-sized ones. It could be a colloid or a solution. But that's what a fluid is. So the movement we're going to be talking about now is water and stuff. And what are those things what stuff? Ions, proteins, amino acids. Now, what's driving the movement of that fluid across the membrane? We have a different pressure now. And what that pressure is hydrostatic pressure, a very different pressure than osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure is what drives osmosis. Hydrostatic pressure is what's going to drive filtration. Again, the next passive transport mechanism that we're now talking about. So what is going to dictate hydrostatic pressure? So hydrostatic pressure is driven by volume. How much fluid is within the compartment? If you have fluid in a compartment, and every compartment in your body has fluid in it, there's a hydrostatic pressure, okay, by definition. If you get rid of some of that fluid, the hydrostatic pressure goes down. If you add fluid to that compartment, the hydrostatic pressure goes up. So therefore, as you increase fluid volume within the compartment, you increase hydrostatic pressure. And then vice versa. If you decrease fluid volume, you're going to decrease hydrostatic pressure. And hydrostatic pressure, unlike osmotic pressure, is a force that pushes. So as the hydrostatic pressure goes up, we're going to push fluid out. The reason that happens is to dissipate the pressure. Why is the fluid being pushed out? Because the pressure is going up. And so let's get rid of some fluid so that'll decrease the pressure. That's the premise behind the movement of the fluid via filtration. So as we increase the fluid volume, we increase filtration. Why? Because we're increasing hydrostatic pressure. As we decrease the fluid volume and then therefore decrease hydrostatic pressure, we're going to decrease filtration. We're going to push less fluid out of that particular compartment. All right? And wherever hydrostatic pressure is higher, fluid will move away from that particular compartment. So just to be thorough, I'm going to draw a lymph vessel here. I don't usually draw those too much. So let's draw a lymph vessel here. What would this compartment be called out here? The interstitial compartment, right? So there'll be interstitial fluid here. We have lymph in here. So there's a fluid inside of that lymph vessel. We have fluid in this interstitial space here, in this interstitial compartment. Each is exerting a hydrostatic pressure because, once again, by definition, any place there's fluid in a compartment, that pressure will be present. Wherever the pressure is higher, fluid will be pushed away from it. So I'm just going to say, just because I want to, that there is a higher, well, let me write the words. There is a higher hydrostatic pressure here, and there's a lower one as compared to that in the lymph vessel. That's just because I wanted it to be that way, although that's usually the way it is. And so because of that, fluid will be pushed into those lymphatic vessels. And that's actually one of the things they do. Your lymphatic system clears fluid from the interstitial space. That is excess fluid. All right? So, let me ask you this. When we talked about that patient who had edema, and we gave that patient edema, how do we give that patient edema? Start with an S. We starved them, right? Remember when we starved the patient and they had edema, right? We'll just do it really quick. So this particular patient starved. And when they starved, they lost solutes in their blood. And so because of that, okay, they went hypotonic. They had a lowered osmolality. And didn't that force water out here and that caused edema, right? One of the ways the body will try to deal with something like this, now we can add a little bit more to the picture. There's our lymph vessel. If we have excess water out here, edema, what happens to hydrostatic pressure out here now? Does it go up or down? Hydrostatic pressure, we're adding water to that compartment. What happens to hydrostatic pressure if we add fluid to the compartment? Okay? Fluid, water, if you add water to the compartment, it's going to add a volume to it, right? So what happens to hydrostatic pressure out here as a result of this? It goes up. So because we have edema in this particular compartment, we're going to have an increase in hydrostatic pressure. Now it's going to be bigger than it normally is. And so that particular person who was starving, who got edema because of that particular scenario, will also be doing this. Fluid will be pushed, more fluid will be pushed into the lip to try to relieve that. So why is it that you know, the child in the commercial still has that big bloated stomach if the lymphatic vessels are taking this fluid away from that particular compartment because they just can't take it on? The edema just overrides it.
So it doesn't go back into the blood vessel?
This right here, will you get some back into the blood vessel? It depends on the blood vessel because the pressures, and we'll talk about that in just a second. We have blood pressure within these vessels that's pretty stinking high, and that it will more than likely be higher than this pressure out here. Okay? The pressure in your lymphatic vessels is much lower than it is in your blood vessels. And so because of that, this is the avenue at which that fluid is going to exit if it has the opportunity to exit. That was an excellent question. All right. Are we good with this? Yes? Do you understand why the fluid gets pushed in here? Because this pressure went up. And it's overriding the hydrostatic pressure in here. The hydrostatic pressure in here is lower than what it is out here. Well, now it's even higher than it's normally out there because there's just more fluid in there in the interstitial space than there should be. And again, that's what your lymph vessels do, as you will learn next semester. One of their jobs, one of their main jobs is to take fluid out. Okay? We good? Something else we're going to talk about was filtration. This is normal, by the way. What I'm going to do right here is normal. This is happening in everybody's body right now. It's better. Blood vessel again. Now, within our blood vessels is a pressure. It's called blood pressure. We'll talk about it in a lot of detail next semester. Blood pressure is in part due to the volume of blood within the blood vessels. So in part, it is a hydrostatic pressure. Other things influence your blood pressure that we'll talk about next semester. But for right now, we're going to keep it simple. Blood pressure is a type of hydrostatic pressure. And there's always pressure. There's always this pressure in your blood vessels, or at least there better be. And that pressure inside your blood vessels, the hydrostatic pressure, exceeds the pressure in the interstitial space. And so because of that, which way is fluid going to go? In or out of the blood under normal conditions? Out, right? The hydrostatic pressure in your blood vessels is higher than the hydrostatic pressure in the interstitial space. And so because of that, on this end of this blood vessel, fluid gets pushed out. Again, this is 100% normal via filtration. Now, the fluid that is being pushed out of these particular blood vessels is water with little teeny solutes in it like ions and amino acids, but not proteins. These blood vessels will not let proteins through. So I'm going to draw little circles here, and those circles are just going to be proteins, although there are other solutes in your blood, of course there are. But we're going to concentrate on the protein. So that is going to be a protein. So as the blood is flowing through the blood vessel, and it's flowing, blood that is, in this direction from left to right. That's the flow of blood. And on this end of the blood vessel, on the left-hand side, we're losing fluid, and that fluid has, again, water, mostly water, like 98, 99% of it is water, but about 1 to 2% of it are ions and little amino acids, for example. Okay? So what's left behind are these solutes. And so as the blood goes from left to right, if these big proteins, these solutes are left behind, what should happen to the concentration of the plasma as we go from left to right? Should it go up or down if we lose lots of water, but the big solutes remain? It should go up, right? If we're losing a whole bunch of water on the left-hand side of this blood vessel, as blood flows from left to right, and a bunch of solutes are left behind, we are going to concentrate the plasma. Again, this is normal, guys. This is happening in your body right now. By the way, if it didn't, you'd be dead in literally probably about 1 minute. So now we're concentrated on this side of the blood vessel. So we have an increase in solute concentration. We have a higher osmolality. We are what, if we were using tonicity terms? We are, with an H, hypertonic, right? Did osmotic pressure go up or down as a result of this? Osmotic pressure went up, right? Solute concentration high, osmotic pressure high. So as a result of this increase in solute concentration, we have an increase in osmotic pressure. We are hypertonic. We now have a gradient. What's now going to move into this side of the blood vessel? Again, this is happening in your body right now. What's going to happen now? What are we going to get? Movement of what now? Water. Via what? Filtration? What's it called? Osmosis. And again, a lot of this fluid is water. Again, 98–99% of that fluid that left is water. So a lot of what just left on this side of the blood vessel goes right back into the blood via osmosis. That's actually one of the functions of proteins in your blood, is to be big and not leave, so that the fluid that is lost here naturally because of a passive process called filtration does not dehydrate your blood. And again, if this didn't happen, you will be dead really fast. You will not have enough fluid within your blood vessel. You will not have enough blood getting to your organs, and your organs will just start to fail quick. Now I said a minute, that's a bit dramatic, but you're not lasting very long at all. Yes?
Why does this happen? Why is there no bleeding? Like, what causes filtration to happen?
Because the fluid can literally move from the blood vessel into the interstitial space, because the water and molecules in the solutes are small enough to move. And this is necessary. By the way, your interstitial fluid, that's how it's formed. Every fluid in your body came from your blood. Your interstitial fluid came from your blood. It used to be plasma. The lymph used to be plasma. Fluid in your cells, the intracellular fluid, used to be plasma. Everything comes from your blood. Your spit, believe it or not, your spit used to be plasma. That's how you make spit. That's the start of making spit. I kid you not. I'll show you next semester. All right? So this is just a natural process just because of the structure of blood vessels, the pressure that's there. This is just physics. This is obeying the laws of physics. That's just what it is. There's nothing actively happening here. If something is small enough to squeeze through those blood vessels, they simply will. Why? Because there's a pressure pushing them out. The proteins are too big, they don't get through, so they stay behind. Good. It keeps us alive. All right? So again, this is 100% natural, and it's happening in your bodies right now. Okay? So we just combine filtration with osmosis in this particular patient. All right? Before we move on with this, one other thing I want to talk about, and you guys can tell me what's going to happen here. Blood vessel again. We have an individual who all of a sudden has an increase in blood volume. Right? So they have an increase in blood volume. What should that do to their blood pressure, given what we just talked about? Because blood pressure is a type of hydrostatic pressure. What should happen to their blood pressure, up or down? It should go up. There are conditions where you volumize your circulatory system. Your heart starts to fail. during congestive heart failure, you will start to